The service provider responsible for a failed KwaZulu-Natal nutritional program has pulled out of that contract with the Education Department. Pupils at over 5,000 schools were left to go hungry since the start of the new term after the supplier was appointed to service the entire province. Newzroom Afrika reports from KwaZulu-Natal.
Pasina Retail CEO Manzini Zungu has written to the KwaZulu-Natal Education Department informing it that it has decided to withdraw from the school nutrition program. This is subject to costs incurred. The ANC in the province has welcomed the move after vulnerable pupils were left to go hungry.
If it has done that, it's done good for us. Because there will be no need for the department to go to court to confirm the cancellation. There will be no need. It will be just an end game. Then the department will do all necessary mechanisms to make sure that schools are fed. If I was him myself, knowing us, who we are, he would have done the same.
The KwaZulu-Natal ANC says the program has collapsed and drastic measures are needed. But just last week, the party described the non-delivery of food as a hiccup. The ANC is now calling for heads to roll.
After the submission from the MEC, we have agreed that it is evident that the program is near to a total collapse and drastic measures must be taken. This program is not an act of charity, but a bold step to achieve social justice for the most vulnerable in our society. Therefore, the ANC has evaluated all relevant material facts. It has come to a determination that there are serious breaches resulting in the nullity of the National Schools nutrition program. The ANC has therefore directed its government to take urgent remedial action to restore the program that will result in schools getting all the necessary food items based on specified menu for all 5 days in a week.
The ANC says remedial action should ensure that the more than 2.5 billion rand allocated to the program is used to drive entrepreneurship by stimulating local economies. A district or local food distribution model is urgently being explored to ensure that all pupils have a plate of food. For Newzroom Afrika on Channel 405, I'm Newzroom Afrika in Durban.
Let's get the view now of the KwaZulu-Natal Nutrition Business Forum, Chairperson Lindani Matiwane. Mr. Matiwane, a very good evening to you. Welcome to News at Prime. Your take then, now that Pasina has withdrawn from the arrangement with the KZN Education Department after this spectacular failure to deliver.
Thank you for having me. Let me say that we have had that and we have welcomed the decision that has been taken by the company in concern. And before that, we would like to also thank the leadership of the PEC and CPEC in terms of listening, giving themselves enough time to listen and take all the factors into consideration and take the drastic move that should have happened earlier, just before we get where we are right now.
How familiar are you with the way in which this disaster unfolded? Because we're told it was beginning of term, children who sometimes rely on the nutrition program as their only source of food for the day, left high and dry, schools scrambling to figure out what had gone on. When did you first get wind that this disaster was in fact unfolding at thousands of schools in KwaZulu-Natal?
In fact, it was from the onset, from the first day that schools were reopening from this short break. There was no feeding whatsoever. Normally, on the first day, whether was it 2 weeks, holidays, a week, or 3 weeks, it matters not. When learners come back to school, they need to be fed. That's what used to happen. So this time around, nobody knew what was going to happen. In fact, we didn't even know where the pickup points were, and no communication whatsoever that was done. So the situation was a disaster from the onset.
And am I right to say that when you say you didn't know where pickups were meant to be done, you're referring to the companies who were basically, yes, the contract was given to Pecina, but were brought in as subcontractors who now had to distribute the food. Am I right?
Yes, you are right. You are quite correct.
And in that moment of crisis from the first day, who from Pecina and from the KZN Education Department was taking leadership, taking responsibility, and perhaps providing possible solution to make sure that the food reached the necessary schools?
Up to this point, there has never been any communication whatsoever in terms of letting us know what to do, what's next. Besides all of us going to media, you know that the department was on media, we were on media, the community, the principals, everyone was on media, you know. So maybe that was the only channels of communication. I do not know whether they were correct or not, but there were no correct channels of communicating in terms of giving directions on what is going to transpire. And
did the food that was meant to be delivered, did that exist?
Some, yes, we did receive some.
When you say some, how much from what was expected actually was available?
Definitely, in terms of percentage, if I would say in terms of percentage, I would say maybe 15, 20, but the situation, the reality out there is district per district, situations will differ, because as it is, there are districts that Monday this week, it was only for the first time where suppliers could come and deliver something. It was for the first time.
And was
so,
it all?
No. It wasn't all the goods that needs to be there. There's never been a situation whereby you will receive all the food commodities that are required and prescribed by the menu.
So what would happen then once you've received, shall we say, insufficient stock? Would you then have to take it to the school, and who then informs the said school that you simply have not been able to bring enough because as the delivery people, you've not been given adequate stock to deliver?
You had to go and deliver to schools because you were also covering your side in terms of fulfilling your role or your new role or responsibility that was given to us as delivery uncles and aunts. So you had to, but it was up to the principal's discretion to accept or not, because the challenge would be if he or she accepts, how many learners were going to be fed and who were those learners? Besides, the commodities weren't all there. For instance, if I deliver dry goods without any vegetables, any soup, any soya, any gas, how are they going to be able to prepare the meal? Even if it's one meal for that matter. It was impossible. It was a mission impossible altogether.
And is this whole disaster Pecina Retail's fault?
Yes, yes, that was the case.
And as people who are subcontractors, Pecina Retail, I know now, has said that they are withdrawing from the contract, but with conditions, i.e. wanting to be paid all the costs the company incurred so far while distributing the food. Have you, as the subcontractors, if that's the right word, have you been paid all that's due to you already?
For what we have delivered so far, we haven't been paid. But let me say that that has never been a priority at this point with us as suppliers who are in possession of the contract. The eligible suppliers who are in the possession of the contract. That is not the major concern right now. What was the major concern is to get the situation back to normal, whereby we'll be able to take care of our responsibilities in terms of feeding the needy child out there at school and make sure that there is smooth sailing of the program. Yes, there will always be glitches here and there, but anyway, it's far much better if we know that we are doing something positive and progressive, you know.
And
but,
when were you supposed to be paid?
I don't even know, because this was a new arrangement altogether. And like I'm telling you, payment, it's something that is not on my mind or in our mind at this juncture. What was the mission is to make sure that the program runs smoothly. So maybe you are putting ideas into my head now that, oh, by the way, eventually it's month end and maybe one needs to be paid. But that is not a concern with us at this juncture.
Let me ask you a last question then, because the Special Investigating Unit now wants to have a look at the contract or contracts related to this arrangement between Persina and the KwaZulu-Natal Basic Education Department. Do you, as someone who had real-life experience of how this all played out and collapsed, do you believe, do you suspect that there was corruption involved?
I would say something was not done correct, and whatever that was done was rushed into, and indeed there is a need of looking into it so that we make sure that we don't repeat the same mistake in the future. So what will be the outcome or what the investigation is going to come up with, that is entirely up to the investigators. But lastly, again, let me take this opportunity to thank you as the media, the community at large, parents, teachers, the leadership of the province has restored trust in us that they can be able to lead us by correcting what was done wrong. And hopefully from now onwards, we'll be able to take the situation back to normal and commit ourselves again once more to make sure that we contribute to our society positively, constructively, for the benefit of the entire community.
Lindani Matiwane, good to speak to you, sir. Thank you so much for your time tonight.